Okay, Ms. Jones, please call the roll.
Okay, Councilmember Bell,
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher,
Yes.
Councilmember Knight,
Here.
Councilmember Michels. I did not see him on the screen as of yet. Councilmember Smith.
Well, hold on, Justin, can you unmute ZM? That might be Zach Michelle's, I'm not sure.
It is Zach.
Zach, is that you?
It is.
Oh, okay,
Great, great, all right, so
okay,
Zach's
got it.
here.
Okay, and then our student reps, Alex Covert. I did not see. Bella Malik.
Here.
Oh, good. And I understand we have our new coming student rep with us tonight, Alex Gilbert. That's Andrew Covert, excuse me. Alex
Yeah,
Hi, Alex.
he's muted, but here,
I'm here.
Welcome.
and Mayor Keough.
present. Thank you, Carol.
Okay,
Item C is approval of the meeting minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Jim Smith has his hand up, so I'll call on Jim.
Yes, I'll move to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 8th and the special city council meeting on June 15th.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Knight.
Second by Knight. Thank you, Julie. So motion by Smith, second by Knight to approve both sets of meeting minutes. Mr. Smith, any comments?
Yes, on page 6, under new business 4, in the paragraph following the discussion item, where it says, it was noted that originally the resolution stated to remove the vote from the August 2020 ballot and discuss it in the spring of 21. I'd like to take out that originally, because it didn't change. The resolution, did state that, and it was to discuss at a future meeting, not in the spring of 2021.
Okay, yeah, I believe we said future of 2021, but I won't disagree with removing the spring part.
Well, seeing we're referring to the resolution,
Yep.
I think it should match to that.
Okay,
That's the only change I had.
okay. Ms. Knight, anything from you?
Nope, nothing from me, thank you.
How about the other council members? Bell, Cousins, Michelle's, Fisher?
Nope.
Okay, I don't have any changes either, or proposed changes, so, Ms. Jones, please call the vote to approve the meeting minutes with the change, please.
okay. Cousins,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Michels,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Keough.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. The meeting minutes have been approved. We're on to item D, which is prearranged participation, and we had none of that arranged today. So item E is approval of the agenda. Courtney, is there anything to add?
No.
Okay, so if there's a motion, Jim Smith has his hand up, please.
Make the motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, is there a second, please? Donna has her hand up.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Smith, second by Ms. Fisher. Thank you both. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, thank you. We have an agenda. There are no public hearings tonight under item F. So we'll move down to item G, which is our first of 2 non-arranged participation on our city council agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak this evening? I see a hand from Mr. McCarter. Justin, if you could unmute, thank you. Mr. McCarter, welcome. Please state your name and address if you would for the record.
Cargar, 3580 Hudson Street.
I can't hear him, Sean.
No, I can't either. Jim, are you speaking?
Yes, can you hear me now? Is that better, worse, or about the same?
That's better, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Normally I have a set of headphones on. I don't have them on today. So thanks for the calibration there. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. As usual, I am very grateful to everybody that I see on the screen who government, what you do, both the council members and paid staff. The reason that I'm speaking to you tonight, as I'm sure many of you are aware, in the past handful of weeks, we've had some national events that have been pretty momentous and have led to
Jim, I
He's
lost
gone
you.
again.
Jim, we lost you.
got that. Okay.
We lost you at momentous.
Okay. Well, that's a bad word to get lost on. I'm going to try to pull things a little closer. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
How is this?
Good.
That's better.
Okay. In the last few weeks in Dexter, there have been two public actions, a vigil and a rally in Monument Park related to the death of George Floyd and the movement that has arisen since then surrounding Black Lives Matter and the issue of racism in this country more generally. One of those rallies, the second one I note, was organized by young people, including a lot of Dexter High School graduates or current Dexter High School seniors or juniors. I was at both. I was astounded at the number of attendees. I was inspired by that. It's been a long time since I have witnessed something like that happening on that scale across the country. The fact that it happened here in Dexter, where we have such a small minority population, was particularly striking to me. And I found that in the first event at the vigil, in the entire time that the group of people was in the park, I saw not one negative interaction. There was no one yelling from cars. There was no one engaging the people in Monument Park in a negative way. Similar response in the second event. So the reason that I'm speaking to you tonight is I think anyone who has watched this and said to themselves, I'm going to do some self-examination. I want to encourage this in my family. I want to encourage this in my community. Has thought to themselves, well, what can I do? And I am going to put an ask to the council tonight. Would you be willing to raise your hand electronically or otherwise if you have heard of the 8 Can't Wait website or action group? Okay. 8 Can't Wait, starting with the number 8. The website is spelled with the number and then can't wait without an apostrophe. Is a specific set of 8 actions that are part of an agenda to decrease violence in police departments across the country and to reduce the amount of violence and fatalities that occur, particularly in minority communities. I know that you might think to yourself immediately, as I did, well, you know, this isn't really a Dexter thing. We, after all, our policing is provided by the county. It's not, we don't have our own police department. And after all, when was the last time you can remember that we had a minority involved violence or fatality associated with Dexter City? Or even something that wasn't minority involved. But if you turn that around and get out of the box a bit and think to yourself, so where is the impact going to come from where it's going to be unusual and potentially very impactful? I believe that a place like Dexter, speaking up on this issue, researching this issue, taking a position as a council on this issue, could have an outsized impact relative to what you might imagine, just thinking, well, that's not our problem. So what I'm going to encourage you to do tonight, I just lay it out as a possibility. I would ask each of you, in particular, Mayor Keough, if you would be willing to check this out and then think about, is this something that we can discuss as a council, as a community, and be part of the effort, which is evolving as I speak, to go to the county level in Washtenaw County and present this program called 8 Can't Wait. 8 Can't Wait is specific proposals, including, for example, banning chokeholds, that are designed to scale down the level of violence. That's the upshot of what I'm asking tonight. And my respect for each of you is very high. And most of the time I come on here advocating for something that's kind of coming from the outside, or to compliment Dan Schlaff on how incredible his department is performing in various things that involve our area. Because his crew is very visible and very excellent. Tonight, I'm coming with an ask for all of you. I think it's much bigger than Dexter. In the end, I think it's much bigger than Washtenaw County. And it speaks to me to what it means to be a patriot, and to be an American. And I'm not saying that lightly. I mean it. That's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jim. I will definitely check that out. Do we have any other people with hands up or that would like to speak under non-arranged? Justin, this is where I need your help to make sure I'm not missing anybody if there's a hand that's gone up. If you've called in on a cell phone, I believe you can hit *9, which will also help raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone. You want to quickly unmute everyone, please?
I've hit unmute on everyone.
Okay. All right, so at this point, I'm seeing no other folks that want to speak under non-arranged. Okay, so we'll move on to item H, which is our communications section of the agenda. We have our standard upcoming meeting list, which at this point has a lot of to be determined in terms of location, just because of we're doing things virtually. But does anybody have any comments on the meeting calendar? Courtney, the plan, remind me, the plan that the governor has allowed is to allow virtual meetings through July 15th. Is that true?
Well, I've seen it two ways. So technically the executive order is through July 31st.
Okay.
But I think the issue is if the state of emergency ends on July, I think it's 19th, then I don't know that she can make executive orders like that. So I think that's why I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
So for sure, we should be set through the first meeting in July.
Okay. So all the meetings that we see there will be held virtually then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have questions or comments on the meeting calendar? All right, we'll jump into our first report from our Public Services Superintendent. Welcome, Dan.
It's Dan, you have to unmute.
We can't hear you.
He's still on mute. He's shaking his head.
I've hit ask to unmute.
He's calling, I think he's giving Justin a call.
All right, that's okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna go to Michelle, and then we'll come back to Dan. Michelle, if you could be ready. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Sean.
We'll
Good
do our-
evening, council. How are you doing this evening?
Good,
Good.
thank you, Michelle.
Excellent, excellent. Y'all had a good weekend, I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. So you've got my report in front of you, and before I go into the update, do you have any questions for me? Okie dokie. So, excuse me, you noticed in the report, DDA was going to be asked about helping out with the, excuse me, with the barricade rental on Main Street during the reopening process of our businesses. The DDA was more than happy to help out with half the cost. They also want to look into purchasing the barricades. The thought is that we will only have more uses for them in the future, and whether those are parades or street closings or even temporary parking space closings. So that's something that they're going to continue to talk about at their next meeting. Excuse me. Mr. Jones from Dexter Creamery is going to be putting in a walk-up window. It's another pivot or modification, if you will, of what he's had to do with his business model. Initially, his business model was you come in and you do your own ice cream, and you pay for it and you go with your nicely change color spoon the minute it hits the frozen yogurt. He did add some hand dip ice cream, but most of it was the do-it-yourself. Well, COVID has kind of changed a lot of that. He had to go to curbside, which didn't allow for people to come in and do their own. So, so he and his staff had to rearrange things virtually and in reality. He's done a couple of different changes interior-wise to keep up with the changing guidelines and requirements. And now, in order to continue to keep his staff safe, as well as the patrons that come in, he's going to this walk-up window. Excuse me. In doing so, he will have to forego having outdoor seating, those barrels that were between the trees, because he still has to maintain that 5 feet of pedestrian access, clear, unobstructed. And with the window and outdoor seating, he won't be able to do both. Temporarily, his barrels have been put out by the clock plaza. That was something that was discussed even before the window. And so temporarily for this season, those will be there in the next year, unless there's some continuation of this whole COVID crisis. There will just be regular benches out in the clock area, and he will no longer have the barrels. The Encore Theater will be coming back to Planning Commission. The schools are requiring changes to the agreement that was approved by council, recommended by Planning Commission, and approved by City Council. Those changes, had they come before Planning Commission's recommendation and council's action, they could have been handled at Planning Commission. But the ordinance is very clear. Once the Planning Commission has made the recommendation and City Council has taken action, any changes to the agreement have to go back to the Planning Commission in a new public hearing. has to be conducted, and a new recommendation is made to City Council. I polled the Planning Commission, and they have agreed to have a special meeting on July 9th, excuse me, to conduct this public hearing. And whatever recommendation comes out from that meeting, City Council will consider the recommendation at their July 13th meeting. We rolled out, do you have any questions before I continue?
I have a question. What are the nature of the changes, Michelle?
The schools, as you know, are not legally required to be subject to zoning. The on-course purchase of the theater or of the property is via a land contract. So when they do their first closing, it's actually a signing of the land contract, and they don't actually take deed to the property until I believe it's 2022 per their agreement,
Okay.
sales and purchase agreement. And because of that, the way the agreement is currently written, the schools would be subject to zoning during that time. Now, they could still sign the agreement, making themselves subject to it, but they have decided they do not want to do that. So,
Okay.
okay,
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
you're welcome.
Paul,
did
did you end up?
Oops, sorry.
That was my question. Donna beat me to it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so staff has been working very diligently to since your meeting a week ago, excuse me, when you adopted the emergency ordinance. Today, we were able to roll out the new application and guideline process and get it to the businesses who we anticipate will be using sidewalk seating or display or the on-street parking spaces. The ordinance goes into effect Wednesday. We're hoping that those applications will come in and we will be able to get them reviewed and approved. We'll work with Kurt and Dan to determine when would be the best time to start putting those barricades and decorative fencing up. I think if Dan and Kurt are okay with this, as well as Courtney and council, doing this based on the anticipated need, going out and doing it all at once instead of piece by piece as applications would warrant. So we'll be working with Dan and Kurt on. But I suspect that the barrier will be up, both the section on the north side of Maine and that small section on the south side of Maine in front of Painted Trout and Beer Grotto will be done by the end of this week, even if the tables and chairs aren't physically going out there.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Anything else, Michelle?
Nope, sorry about that. That's it.
Okay. Michelle, I want to go back to the serving window at the creamery for a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I don't have any problem with the serving window itself, especially without the outdoor seating, because I think the pedestrian movement is important along there. But I do offer up a question as to whether or not that's something that should be administratively approved. I'm not quite sure why I feel that way. I guess the fact that it impacts the public area, to me, is something that I think should be wrestled with by more than just the zoning administrator. This is different. I know it could be compared to a facade change, or adding an awning or changing the color, or widening a door or whatever, but because of how the people interact with the site relative to the window, that sort of, I don't know, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but I just have that question. I wanted to pose that to all so that everybody knows. So I trust where you're going, and you and I have talked about it, but I wanted the rest of council to understand my question there.
Right. And I appreciate the question. And one of the things I hope that you all will recall, it's been a little bit, at least a year, the last time outdoor seating, when it was when Peter needed to come back to Planning Commission for the special land use, when he wanted to expand his seating on the sidewalk. There was a lot of discussion about whether that should be just a regular permitted by right use, or did it really require special use? And in the end, Planning Commission, with the assistance of the city attorney, Dykema, determined that would be one of the things that needed to be changed as we updated the zoning ordinance, that it really doesn't require special land use. That it should be more of a either administrative or by right use, because we've got the basic tenants, if you will, controls in place to make sure that pedestrian access is maintained. Excuse me. Insurance for liability insurance is provided, and hold harmless agreements are signed, as well as all of the other.
I trust that you'll get all those things taken care of. I'm just not sure that of the 6 or 8 reasons in section 21 that provides for administrative review, I don't necessarily think that this is a less intense use given its impact to the public area. That's all I'm saying. And that was the area that you were calling out as was under your purview. And I guess I would love it if others would just read that again. I'm not trying to make an overly large deal of it. I just wanted to say, I'm not sure that when it affects the public right away. Anyway, I've stated that, I guess.
Right.
Throw that out there. So I wish him good luck with the window, and I'm glad that he's willing to give up the outdoor seating, because like I said, I think the pedestrian movement is an important one, or the most important thing there. Okay, so I can go back to Dan then. No other comments?
Yep,
from
I'm done. Oh,
wait, Jim has his hand up. Sorry, Jim Smith, I saw your hand. Please go.
I have a question regarding the barricades and the fence.
Yes, sir.
Do we really need the fence? And
the fence, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If we do, I think the fence should go inside the barricades, because I think the barricades are better suited, for traffic to see what is going on there. And I just think, especially if they use the like 2 different colors of the barricades, I think that's better for the traffic to see. And putting a sign on the fence out there, the traffic's not going to really see that going by. And if people are seeing it from, if they're going to the restaurant or store, they're going to have to walk across the street anyways at the crosswalks and use the sidewalk to get to the store or restaurant. And I don't think they really, if they need a sign at all, it'd be on the side facing the sidewalk. I think not on the outside, on the traffic side. So I think the fence, if it's used at all, should go inside the barricades.
So you'll have to forgive me, Jim. You guys approved a emergency ordinance that set it up for the fence to be on the outside to soften the aesthetic view and to provide that structure on which a banner sign could be erected if the business wanted a sign.
Yeah, I think it's more important that the traffic understands exactly what is there, that there is a barricade there. I don't think it needs to be, the image doesn't need to be softened for the traffic. If you want to soften the inside, for the people that are using the space, then that'd be fine, putting the fence there, but I don't think it needs to go on the outside. Plus, that's our fence that we already have, and so why put that in harm's way?
I guess I'm a little confused. Are you proposing that we make a change to the emergency ordinance then?
I would, I figured that, there's probably some leeway when you go to get the stuff set up that, that certainly could be looked at.
This is Paul here.
Go ahead, Paul.
We've made the decision. It is been voted on, and I don't see any reason why we would change it now. In fact, I don't think we can change it now with going back and reviewing it and changing it again. It was an emergency order that we made. We made that decision. So let's live with it. And I remember the discussion clearly about the signs on the outside of that. We can second guess ourselves all day how we're going to do this, but let's get it done, and let's get it done as quickly as possible so these businesses can get back to as best they can of surviving.
Are there other council questions? Okay, well, look, unless I'm hearing somebody propose a change to something, I'm not sure how we change that now. I think we should let the staff set this up as best they feel it functions. Okay, and if they find a reason that the fencing doesn't fit outside, they can move it if they need to. I didn't quite realize the absolute, I guess the absoluteness of exactly what we were approving. I mean, the goal was to give them some flexibility to set up a shared space within the parameters of the 3 feet and the 2 feet, 3 feet from the ends and 2 feet on the sides, whatever the parklet dimensions are that were shown. But I think I agree with Paul that we've set some parameters out there. Let's let our staff set this up and give it a try. Dan, are you able to be unmuted? I see.
Can you hear me, Sean?
All right.
Can you hear?
Dan, I'll move into your report then, please.
All right. Sorry for the delay. I provided a 2-week written report, and I also have some updates on some ongoing projects. I'd like to start with the updates first. In my DPW report, I have the Wolf construction starting this week. They're unable to do that on Forest Street. They're going to be in after the 4th of July weekend, and he's going to call me the 24th to give me an update so we can give resident letters out to the affected residents when he comes for the Forest Street project. Any questions on Forest Street?
Dan, they're just going to widen some of those or add some culverts to the end of some of the driveways so they have a little space to get out to the road. Is that the gist of it?
That is the gist of it. Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. Well, I'd like to update you on Grand and Hudson. They finished the storm last week on Grand Street. This week, they're cutting the grade on Hudson on one side and putting the edge drain in. They're going to continue to do that the next couple days. The last time I went up there, it was about 3 o'clock today. They might have been halfway up Hudson Street. And then also this week, they're going to start on removing or replacing the galvanized service lines. We have 6 of them between Grand and Inverness, or Grand and Hudson Street. They're going to do 2 of them the 25th and 1 of them the 29th and 2 on June 30th. I still have 1 more resident that we have not been able to contact on Grand to get that set up, but we're working on that. Hopefully we can get it done this week. Also, we do have some lead samples that we got to do, but we got that all figured out. Is there any questions on Grand or Hudson with construction going on?
Doesn't look like it.
Is there any questions on my written report?
Dan, I have one that just I thought of as I was reading through. How are the filters doing relative to the phosphorus removal? Are we on track, or you're shaking your head?
We're on track. They're running perfectly.
Okay, good, good.
Everything down there is doing as expected.
So we're meeting our limits then.
Every day. Yep.
All right, great.
Yep. And
Great.
we've actually been able to cut back on the chemicals and really dial it in. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Good. Thanks for the update on that. Donna Fisher, I saw you had your hand up, please.
I had the same question you had. And then I have a comment for Dan. I wanted to know, what did you do for art up at the car dealership? And then I read it twice and realized it was art installation. So
That is correct.
good laugh there, though. Thank you for that.
There's a couple things that I haven't been able to do working for the city for 36 years. And I actually got to participate because Kurt had some other things that was really, really important we needed done. So I actually got up to go up there for a couple hours and help with that installation.
That's neat. That's neat. Well, I first read it and I thought, art who? I got it now.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Good.
Made me laugh.
Anything else, Dan?
I think that's it, unless you guys got some more questions.
Okay, great. Great. Any questions, council? Okay, we'll keep moving. Thank you, Dan. Keep up the good work. Tell everybody, thank you.
Yeah, I will.
We have a written report in the packet from our county sheriff. Does anybody have any questions on the sheriff's report? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. I'll keep going. Anything to report on any of the subcommittees? Paul, anything from Wave you want to make a comment on before the stuff is in the packet for approval?
No, the only thing is that the subgroup met that was designated to start the process of finding a new executive director. Those qualifications have been mailed out and we're waiting for that. We'll be meeting again 2 weeks, second week in July, to look at the first blush of that and then see how they come in.
Okay.
I do have more Wave updates if you want me to do them now.
Sure, or you can blend them into your report. You're up next, so thank you.
So I did ask Jim Carson about when they were going to start service, and he said they'd be bringing back their drivers on the 6th for drug testing orientation and training, which should take a week, and then they hope to start buses running on the 13th of July. The routes will have to be changed some because the ATA is not fully back up, but he said that he would give me something for the email update so that we can let people know how it was going to work. And I did get an email from Jim with the job description and the posting for Michaeline, and it looks like they're hoping to fill that by the first of the year because she wants to retire in December. So, maybe they'll shoot for some overlap, which is always helpful if you can get it. But yeah, so that was what I had on Wave.
Thank you.
Okay. Courtney, why don't you continue with your report if you're ready, please?
Yeah, so we did reopen to the public. We had a busy day that first day, which was kind of funny. We had like 30 people come in. We kept track. It's definitely slowed down since that first day. We are still working with PNC on putting a drop box right on the property, right by the front door on the outside that could be used for here instead of just having the one at the sheriff. It would also be bigger. So we're still working on that, and then we still will have the tempered glass thing at the front counter installed. We have some permanent sneeze guard type things right now. We worked today on ordering some extra supplies for the election, so we'll be getting things like hand sanitizer and masks and gloves from the state of Michigan, but they opened up sort of a grant program where we got $3,000 to kind of buy off of a list of things. So we got a bunch of shields for the tables and some PPE dispenser stations that we can put at the door, some thermometers so that we can take the temperature of the poll workers, and some alcohol swabs. So we tried to spend that the best that we could. It's very odd to be ordering that kind of stuff for an election after 22 years in that business. Certainly the first time I've ever had to do that. Just to give you a sense of the absentee ballot requests we've been receiving, in August of 2018, we had 1,355 voters total for the election, absentee polls, everything. It was about a 42% turnout, which was high for an August election. We already have 1,074 absentee ballot requests for August, which is 32% turnout. So it's going to be a lot of stuffing. It's going to be a lot of processing. I said we're going to have like a whole office contribution to the stuffing of these 1,074 absentee ballots. And that's only now, it's June 22nd. We're not even into July yet. So that has definitely been interesting to watch. So people are taking advantage of that opportunity. Sean mentioned the remote meetings, which will be at least either through the 15th or the 31st, depending on how it works with the executive order. The schools are willing to allow room rentals once they're allowed to do room rentals by the state, so that is an option. I talked to the superintendent, and he seemed to, say that they were going to start doing that once they could start doing that. So that is an option potentially for August. Trout Unlimited is doing their project, that planting project that you guys approved several months ago now, July 6th and 7th. The survey of the Dan Hoy or the Dexter and Arbor Road property is about done. I got a proof of it and had some comments, so I should have that as a part of my report in the next packet. The community garden seems to be going well between the Rotary and the DPW. We put up a layer of chicken wire around it, which seems to have helped. Also, the DPW helped with laying new mulch down the center of the path. So for now, I think everything there is going fairly well. We do need to start working on our plans for next year. So hopefully we have some time to do that coming up. So thank you to the Rotary and the DPW for the extra effort there. I think that's it. We've got some projects coming up with crack sealing. We want to do a sidewalk project, pavement marking, so there'll be some activity around town. I have the traffic signal project, which I'm really excited about. It's funny, we just got an email from somebody wanting us to put the flashing yellow arrow at Baker in Maine, and it's nice to be able to say, okay, we're gonna do that soon. We've had a couple interviews for the DPW position, so hopefully we have a recommendation on that for the meeting on the 13th, because we desperately need to get that filled. And I think that's it.
Courtney, is that the second round of advertising we've done for that?
Yeah, so we did a second round. That it's open till filled. So even if we got one today, we could still interview someone. We don't have an end date, but we had a date that we'd review them again. And so we interviewed one person so we've interviewed 2 people since. So we had interviewed 2 people before the pandemic. I think one withdrew. And then now we've added another 2 people. And so they're kind of looking at everybody all together to come up with a recommendation.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions for Courtney? Okay, I'll cruise into my report. So I know there's several discussion items later on down on what to do relative to, do we put the question about the facilities bond on the agenda in a future agenda? Do we put it, or not a future agenda? Do we consider it a future agenda? Do we, put it on a future ballot? I want to encourage council that, when we took public comment last year, we received pretty clear direction that people wanted us to have an option for each of the facilities we were trying to improve, both the fire hall and the city offices. And, just the last couple of months, we've heard Courtney struggle sort of to find us a place back into the senior center. I mean, the senior center doesn't want to let us in as a result of the COVID pandemic. We're going to need to come up with a city hall option or another place to meet. So I'm looking forward to the workshop on the 13th and hoping that we can come to some unified approach to where we're going, at least because we're lacking space, and we obviously are going to need to meet if we can't continue to meet virtually. The DDA meeting that I attended on Thursday morning, as Michelle mentioned, the DDA did offer to help reimburse council for the renting of the barricades, but they're also very interested in the idea of purchasing some for future use. I'm I might have missed that. If Michelle said that, I'm doubling up on that item, but they were interested in the potential use of those in more ways than one, or potentially future years if we needed them for some reason. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. I did inadvertently leave off a few people from my appointments or reappointments last meeting. They are on the consent agenda. I apologize for that. I don't know how I mistyped without listing the planning commission representatives, but anyway, my apologies for getting back to the agenda so that they get reappointed, please. I am in upstate New York with my family. I want to wish everybody who is a father out there a happy belated Father's Day. I hope you had a good Father's Day like I did. And because we have 3 weeks between now and the next time we meet, I'd also like to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. It seems like summer just started, and I guess technically it did, but it's hard to believe we're almost into July. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So Michelle did share the idea about the DDA, and we had talked about it, purchasing the barricades. The biggest issue with that I need the DDA to be really well aware of is we don't have anywhere to store them.
Yeah,
That's why renting them was perfect for this situation, because if you remember, we're losing all of our storage on Dan Hoy. We already don't have room really to put the stuff that's coming off Dan Hoy somewhere, and so to add these water wells, which are not small, is overwhelming. So if the DDA could just keep in mind that it sounds like a nice idea, but it does come with consequences, that would be great.
And that was discussed and talked about. So there's no decision made, but I just wanted everybody to be aware that that was what they talked about at the meeting. The last thing I wanted to mention is I got an email from Chris Knight over at UIS, and Chris is making yet another change over there on his property in the Dexter Research Park. And I think that he's going to be coming back to Planning Commission with a new plan, different from what he just moved forward with. Sounds like he isn't sure he needs the space, all the space that he wants, but he still wants to build a new building. So I just want to give everybody a heads up. I have not talked to Chris or spoken with Chris, but I did receive an email and encouraged him to talk to Michelle and our staff. So just wanted the council to be aware of that in case you hear anything out there. Donna, you have your hand up, I think.
I do have. I'm wondering were there types of events discussed at DDA that these things would be used for?
They felt that they could be used for a lot of the downtown events, whether they're Dexter Days or, Apple Days when we shut down Central. They thought that they're a little more versatile, a little cleaner than just a type 3 barricade that pops up. They just thought there was versatility. Randy Willis, did the math. He looked up the cost of them, the cost to buy what we're renting is basically the same. And from his perspective, if we could figure out all the other things like storage and such, for the same amount we're spending on rental, we could get the equivalent amount of those and own them, was his comment. So again, we didn't vote to do it. We we asked staff to come back with enough information so that the discussion could continue at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, seeing no further questions for me, we will move on to the consent agenda, correct? Oh, wait a minute. No, I don't want to skip past. Councilmember Cousins has a report.
I'm fine with what it says. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, consent agenda. Donna, I see your hand.
Yes, you added these planning commission applicants at the bottom of the list, or appointments to the planning commission, or you're waiting to approve them another time?
No, they're in the packet, but I meant to, if you recall, last meeting, we had a whole list of them, and some, for whatever reason, I forgot to put the ones that are on this list on that previous list. So I just apologize for asking council to do it in two motions.
I got you. Okay. Okay, then I move we approve bills and payroll in the amount of $244,262.51. The CBIZ quote to complete the 2020 actuarial, 2019-20 budget amendments, 1920 DDA budget amendments, 1921 traffic signal projects, 2021 wave contracts, and the city manager employment agreement.
And the reappointments.
Plus the reappointments.
Okay, they did go on that list. Okay, I gotcha.
Okay, Jim, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Fisher to approve the 8 items on the consent agenda as listed, as mentioned, and a second by Councilmember Smith. Ms. Jones, please call the vote.
Okay, Bell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes?
Fisher,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Michelle,
Abstain?
okay, Knight,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We have no old business tonight, so we're down to item L1, which is consideration of the General Appropriations Act to adopt the fiscal year 2020, 2021 budget. Is there a council member like to move that?
I'm trying to find the raise my hand.
Jim
There it is.
Smith first and then Donna. Jim?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion to approve the General Appropriations Act and adopt the fiscal year 2021 budget.
Okay, Ms. Fisher?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Smith, second by Fisher. Thank you both. Any discussion? Courtney, anything to review?
I tried to highlight, or I did highlight the changes that have been made since the last draft. Shifted some things related to the PATH project just because obviously it's not going to be done by next Wednesday due to the COVID. It was delayed. Added some revenue that we're receiving in the DDA's budget. And I changed the Grand Street project. So we did pay for about $200,000 of the Grand Street project. We have a bill due for the work that they've done so far. So, and we had planned to do that whole project after July 1, but with school closing, we decided why wait. So there's a change to that. And then we had one additional water fund item we needed to include to clean out the retention pond at the filter building. So yeah, just relatively minor changes that were in there.
Thank you. Are there any council questions about the budget?
Paul here. Courtney, at the forum, somebody asked about the completion of the trail.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a date that they have now changed it to?
I believe it's mid-August. It should be substantially complete by the end of July, and then I believe it should be mid-August that it's totally complete.
Okay, I mentioned that was the original one, was the end of July, and so I'll change that when we meet again. Thank you very much. And comment, John, I explained the last time we had a workshop about the budget that I will be voting no on this for the same reasons. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Smith?
Yeah, I just want to compliment staff on a well defined and all the changes here is very understandable and very complete. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Are there any other council members that have questions? I'd like to echo Mr. Smith's comments. Budget is very well done. This process, as you know, starts back with the goals in February. We were only able to meet once on that, but it's a 4-month-long process, and here we are. So seeing no further hands or people waving in the screen to me, I'll ask Ms. Jones to call the vote. We had a motion by Smith, second by Fisher to approve the 2021 Appropriations Act.
Smith,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Cousins,
No.
Fisher,
Donna?
Fisher?
Did we lose her?
No, I could see her.
Yeah.
Is she
Donna,
frozen?
can you hear us? Wave your hand if you can hear us. Okay, it's your
We're
turn.
voting on L1.
I said yes. Yeah, I
Oh.
did.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
We
that's
didn't
why-
hear you. We didn't hear it first.
Okay.
Knight,
Yes.
Michelle,
No.
and Keo.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries 5-2. New business item L2 is the discussion of a possible facilities ballot proposal for the November 4th, 2020 election. Councilmember Smith asked for this to be on the agenda, so I'll let you open that up, Jim, if you're okay with that.
Sure. The discussion that we had after at the last meeting where I introduced the idea, there's a lot of talk about whether a resolution could replace a previous resolution. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that back again for discussion and offer my opinion on that the resolution that was passed removed the ballot proposal from the August election. It did not establish a new election date for that. And it seems in that a resolution rescinds any previous resolutions on that particular topic. So I would say that, in my opinion, right now there is no ballot resolution out there pending. So any future, whether it's for November or for sometime next year, would be required to draft a new ballot resolution and then a ballot proposal and then pass a supporting resolution for that. So
I would agree.
Wanted to offer my opinion on that.
Okay, well, are there other council members that want to discuss this?
Yeah.
Okay. Zach,
I'll just offer that I will not vote in favor of putting something on the ballot so soon after we decided we're not going to put it on the ballot. I would consider one or the other or both of them separately, but I don't feel comfortable having us made a decision and coming back so soon with no changes in the environment and just changing our mind willy-nilly all over again. I could not support that.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you.
All here, I agree with Zach. We can do one or the other, but we can't bring both of them back to have a vote on it in November. So I will support the concept of one of those items back, but not both of them back. I think it violates not only being willy-nilly, but it also violates the concept of what basically Robert's rule says that you can't bring an item back after that unless it's at the next meeting. And so if it's different, that has been ruled, as I understand it, that it's okay, but it can't be the same proposal, which would be both items, both City Hall and Fire Hall on the same ballot. Either separately or together.
Well, I don't know if I completely agree with that. I think I think all we said was that we were going to discuss it in the future. Now, my recollection of that discussion is that we were going to wait until the calendar turned the page to the next calendar year, which is why afterwards I asked the city manager to put a little reminder note to place it on the second meeting in January. But I don't, I agree more with the fact that we just made a decision. Why would we go against it than I do? But I don't think there's anything in Robert's rules that would prevent us from putting both back on up on a consideration item for a future resolution if we wanted to do that personally. Now, if we want to get an opinion from our attorney on that, we can if we feel it's necessary. But I think that Zach's point about, just having made the decision to keep it off the ballot this calendar year is really the reason that I feel we shouldn't be talking about it yet. Let's get through this COVID situation and get our businesses back on track and hopefully have a more normal next year. Scott, Julie, Donna, anything to add?
No. No.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm in agreement with Paul and Zach on this issue, so.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no further hands, we'll go on to new business item L3, discussion of the status of Partners in Architecture contract for design and construction services for the fire station project. This was also requested by Mr. Smith. There's quite a bit in the packet. I don't know if Jim, you want to start or if you want Courtney to provide an update on the status.
Well, I'll just say regarding all three of the next discussion items, it'd been over 3 months since we last talked about them. And I felt it was good to at least touch base on each of these to see where we are as far as council, how we feel about these, and to make sure that, we do have the best information we can to go forward. So I appreciate staff putting the packet items together to address these. Thank you.
Okay, so from your perspective, there's enough information in the packet related to the status, so you know where it's at.
Yeah, because when the at a previous meeting, when it was the contract was referred to, it was just a single line that said that they had received a update from Partners in Architecture, but we didn't actually see the changes at that time. So this gets us, an opportunity to see the changes. So I appreciate that that was included in here.
Courtney, do you have a redlined version of the AIA document?
No, I don't. David made the changes to the document and sent it back to me.
Could you ask him if he has one that he could share?
I think he's listening, so maybe he could tell us.
Oh.
I do. This is
Do
David
you?
Jackson.
How are you, David?
Hi, David.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, David.
Happy New Year, David.
Yeah, the new year is different than we all expect.
If you do have a redline version, I wouldn't mind. Maybe you could just email that out to council, please.
I certainly will.
Or email it to Courtney and she could email it out to council is what I meant to say.
I certainly will.
Okay, are there other council members that need to ask a question on this item, or Jim, should I just keep going to the next one then? Oh,
I have a quick question.
Okay.
For Mr. Gasson, would it be possible you get that to Manager Nichols so we can consider it at our next meeting in July?
I will have it to her tomorrow.
All right, so that's a yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I just wanted to call attention to the timeline chart that I'd put together. I used the timelines that were given previously for when we were looking at the May 2020 election. And so I projected those for November 2020 election or May 2021 election. And you find that whether it's November 2020 or May 21, if we don't make any adjustments to the timeline, then we basically end up with the station being completed for either election in April of 2023. Because even though the normal timeline would be for November would be have it being completed by December 2022, for best pricing on the construction, would most likely have to wait until spring of 2022 to start the construction. So basically, you would end up with the same timeline as far as when the facility was constructed. The alternative, and this was discussed when we were looking at the May 2020 timeline, to accelerate the timeline slightly by having the schematic design phase done prior to the election. And that would improve things by almost a year's time, be about 10 months' time, in that you would be able to have a station done around June 2022. So that's the main difference in the timelines, is if you adopt an accelerated schedule to do the schematic design early, that gets you into the 2021 construction timeline, and get you into that season rather than waiting another until 2022. So that's the difference on the timelines as far as when a station could be completed.
Courtney, is there a way that you and Michelle could work with David and add in the site plan approval process and that kind of thing to this timeline so that we could actually see how it might play out and fit within all this stuff, so that we could then figure out when the construction signs could go up?
Yeah, we can do that. As long as council understands that anything that, any future things we ask David to do will cost money that we don't have budgeted right now.
Yep, I understand. I just would like you to figure out, if you can, when in this process we would be in front of Planning Commission, and we know we need a variance for the driveway. There's at least one ZBA meeting in there, and it, self-inflicted.
So make sure to ask him before we sign the contract
Make sure to ask him what?
to get his work before we sign the contract and have to start paying him. It's a joke.
I got it. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry I didn't get it.
We can see what we can do ourselves.
All right, thank you. David, thank you for attending this evening. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, okay to move on to L4. When to hold the fire station design education session with Ken Newell. Jim?
Just put that out there. Again, it had been 3 months since we last talked about it. And depending on how things move along here, in some instances we would say, well, we should do this sooner than later. But, we may, over the next month or two, decide, whether we're going to have a ballot proposal for November. And then I guess we could decide about stuff like this.
Okay. Well, again, I think it's important that we make some headway on the facilities thing and have another public meeting on it.
And I did get an email from Ken Newell a couple of weeks ago now, maybe a month ago, just checking in. And, obviously with everything going on, wasn't pushing that one forward, but you know, he obviously what he was doing was remotely anyway, so it's just a matter of when council wants to do it.
Okay.
I would say this is something that we ought to be fairly easy to punch out with Survey Monkey or something, or the Doodle poll. We've got an extra break from meetings. He can do it remotely. Let's get something done. We're going to have to be versed in this no matter what we do. Construction management for this type of a project is a bit different than what we've done before, even though the water treatment or sewer treatment plant was that. It was kind of a nice package. So this is a new thing and we might as well get it done.
Okay, any further comment on L4? Okay, new business item L5. Discussion of the, at the March 9th, 2020 meeting, council approved beginning the process of review and selection of a construction management firm. Jim, did you want to carry forward with this one as well?
Again, the same thing. It's been 3 months since we last talked about it. And I just wanted to kind of have a refresher about the RFQ and what was contained in that. And so that, you know, as things proceed along, then we know that we're ready to move on this at the appropriate time.
Does council have any questions for Jim or Courtney on this? All right, seeing none, I'll move on to council comments. I'm just going to go in order on the participants window here. Jim Smith, please.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Zach, sir.
All right, first I wanted to explain I abstained on the consent agenda because part of the bills we're paying is for my employer, and so I didn't want to be involved in that. I voted no on the budget because even though, as described, it's a very good budget and staff worked hard with all the changes, I felt we could have done more to reduce a couple of expenses that we could have pushed to next year. With respect to the current civil environment, I personally believe it's more than just policing, that it's we're still recovering from our original sin as a nation. And I've been struggling with what we might be able to do locally since we don't control the police department, and the sheriff is actually pretty good at those 8 simple changes already. So I've been thinking of ways that we might be able to do something bigger or different with regard to, you know, make better known our history as a city, as a community with race relations, whether it be the bridges, the Underground Railroad that was out up the hill, and redlining and those types of things. I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but I think it's something that we as a community ought to look into do. Let's see. I do want to I'll try to be as brief as I can on this, but I also feel compelled to speak a bit on something from the mayor's report. So here's the direct quote that I'm going to address. Within the past week or so, 2 extremely large signs have been placed on a city-owned property at the corner of Dexter Ann Arbor Road in Meadowview. These signs are 32 square feet in size and were placed under a poor interpretation of a section of our sign ordinance related to allowing construction signs. So let me repeat a bit of that. These signs were placed with a poor interpretation of a section of our sign ordinance related to allowing construction signs. So there are a couple of elements of that I find disturbing, and I, again, need to share. First, the city does not have a sign ordinance. The city does have an article in its zoning ordinance that is dedicated to the regulations of signs, and there's a very significant difference between those two, but we'll leave that discussion for a later date. The next is the use of the term construction sign. The concern I'll address at this time is that council's action to place the signs included a draft resolution outlining the legal justification and the compelling governmental interest for placing these signs. This draft resolution explicitly referenced section 7.024I of the zoning ordinance that exempts authorized signs of a state, or rather authorized signs of the state or political subdivision of the state. There was absolutely no reference at all in that draft to construction signs. So the 5 members of council who voted in favor for it, based on the materials we have, we made that decision based on them not being construction signs. You can read the thing. I'm not going to read it tonight, but it was very clear, the legal basis for it. My biggest concern, though, is the use of the phrase poor interpretation to describe the votes and actions of the 5 members of council. The use of the phrase poor interpretation is not a rhetorical flourish. It does not include any qualifiers. It is not a poor, misguided attempt at irony or sarcasm. It doesn't say I disagree with their interpretation or I disagree with them because of this. This report is promulgated as part of our packet and made a part of our record, our official record. And it flat out states that other members of council are guilty of poor interpretation, that they are wrong, period, end stop. Again, no qualifiers, no flourish, none of that. This attack, in my opinion, constitutes a character insult, does not respect the views of other legislative co-equals, does not respect the fact that all members of council will not always agree, is not consistent with respecting and abiding by a decision that the council has made, and constitutes an attempt to undermine a decision made by this council, all of which are enumerated as violations of our city council rules. I'm going to take a quick moment to provide a rebuttal of the response to the accusation that this council in general is, and that I personally am, guilty of poor interpretation. So originally, when I was thinking of this in my mind, it included a lengthy section to describe my significant background and experience in land use planning and control law. I'm not going to go on that. I'm going to save everyone the time to go on this beautiful day. And that reference was not to intimate that somebody without that experience cannot have their own opinion or opinion that's different than mine on matters related to land use planning and control law. It was only to show that I have some background for where my interpretation, my poor interpretation, as described in the mayor's report, was coming from. So I will say that in my capacities as the planning and zoning administrator for local units of government, there's not been a single successful appeal of my administration, interpretation, or enforcement of local ordinances to either the local zoning board or through a court. Zero. I'm very serious about what I do. I research, I know what's going on. Also quickly, I have personally drafted sign standards for multiple communities that are compliant with Reed versus Gilbert and other applicable case law. So again, my issue is not that somebody has a different opinion from my own or that of council. Anybody with a memory longer than a goldfish should remember multiple instances where I have disagreed with the decisions of this council, including tonight, making my objections known but not attacking those of other council members. My issue is that our mayor has publicly impugned our actions. If the mayor were a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners and had made such a public comment attacking my professional expertise and competence, he could be charged with a violation of the organization's code of conduct and ethics. It's very clear you do not attack the professional competency of another professional. You don't do it publicly. If you have concerns, you talk about it with them privately. So I would very much appreciate a written apology in the next council packet from the mayor. I hope this his comment was done in error and not with malice. And I would like to also publicly remind the mayor and fellow council members that this type of behavior is not consistent with our rules, is not respectful to council members or their opinions. This type of continued behavior has already and can only continue to sow the seeds of division and discord, which does not serve the public interest at all. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Knight.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fisher?
No, I have no additional comments.
Okay. Mr. Cousins?
Some of the things that Zach said reflected in my mind as I read through this, but I remind those that thought it wasn't important that the item that I place on the agenda every meeting, defining the conduct of the discussion and the debate, could not be more important than it is for this meeting as relates to the mayor's comments. Zach mentioned them. They don't have to be mentioned again. We voted for them. Every member of this council voted, maybe even with the exception of Mr. Bell, because I don't know the timing of that, but everybody voted for these to abide by these conduct norms. If we decide we want to change those, somebody make a motion and change them. And we can go willy-nilly anytime we want to attack anybody and make the comments that do go against the decisions as we've defined it, the diversity of views. The members must abide by the decision of council once a decision has been made. That's all I have to say this evening.
Thank you, Paul. Mr. Bell?
Nothing.
Okay. I just would like to say one thing, and that is that I believe our staff didn't recommend that we should place a sign. So I was following what I thought was a recommendation from staff when I made my comment about poor misinterpretation. So that was the basis for that. I just think it's premature. But do we have non-arranged participation? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, I will wish you all a good evening and a good week. I'll seek a motion for adjournment, please. Mr. Smith?
I move that we adjourn.
Moved by Smith,
I'll second.
Second by Knight.
second by Fisher or Knight, however you heard it, Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.